Jai Hanuman. This is a continuation of the Ramayana. There at Kishikant, Hanuman, the son of wind god, thought to himself, Sugriva has forgotten the task entrusted to him by Sri Rama. Approaching Sugriva, therefore he bowed his head at his feet and tried to bring him round by employing all the 4 methods of persuasion. Sugriva felt much alarmed to hear the words of Hanuman. Sensuality has robbed me of my senses. Now, O son of the wind god, troops of monkeys are scattered here and there. Send batches of messengers to them and have it proclaimed that anyone who fails to appear before me with a fortnight shall meet his death at my hands. Thereupon Hanuman sent an envoy of receiving them, most politely charged them with their duty, making use of threats, blandishments, and persuasions. They all bowed their head at his feet and proceeded on their journey. That very moment Lakshmana entered the city. Seeing him, angry monkeys ran away helter-skelter. Lakshmana then strung his bow and said, I will burn this city to ashes by making use of Agni Astra. Thereupon come Vali's son, Prince Agandha, seeing the whole city in dismay. He bowed his head at Lakshmana's feet and made humble petition to him, whereupon Lakshmana extended to him his protecting arms. When the report of Lakshmana's work reached the ears of the monkey lord, King Sugriva, he was terribly distracted with fear and said, Listen, Hanuman, take Tatra with you with suppliant prayers, appease the prince, that is Lakshmana. Hanuman accordingly went with Queen Tara and bowing at the Lakshmana's feet, recounted the Lord's glory. With much supplications, he escorted the prince to the palace and after laving his feet, seated him on a couch. Then the monkey lord Sugriva bowed his head at the prince's feet, with Lakshmana took him by the arm and hugged him. There is nothing so intoxicating, my lord, as the pleasures of sense, which is an instant infect that soul even of a sage. Lakshmana was gratified to hear his humble speech and reassured him in many ways. The son of the wind god told him all that happened in the meantime, with how batches of spies have been dispatched in various directions. Accompanied by Akantha and other monkeys and placing Sri Rama's younger brother at the head, King Sugriva went forth with joy and arrived in Sri Rama's presence. Bowing his head at Sri Rama's feet, he exclaimed with joined palms, My lord, I am not at all blamed for what I have done, exceedingly powerful. O Lord, is your Maya, which withdraws itself only when you, O Rama, show your grace to a Jiva, gods, men, and savages, my master, and all the slaves of these senses. When I am well brute and a monkey, the most libidinous of animals, a man who is not pierced by the shaft of a woman's glances, nay, who remains wakeful even in the dark night of anger, and who is never caught in the meshes of greed, is as good as yourselves. O Lord of Raghus, it is a virtue which cannot be attained by personal endeavor. It is only by your grace that one here and one there can acquire it. Thereupon the Lord of Raghus smiled and said, Brother, you are dear to me as Bharata. Now with all your heart make some organized effort where we may get tidings of Sita. While a talk was thus going on between them, multitudes of monkeys arrived. Legions of monkeys of various colors were visible in all the quarters. Sankara, I saw the army of monkeys. Uma, he is indeed a fool who would try to count them. They came and bowed their head at Sri Rama's feet and found their true Lord in him when they gazed on his countenance. In the whole host, there was no monkey whose welfare Sri Rama did not personally inquire. This was no miracle for my master, the Lord of Raghus, who has taken all forms and is omnipresent. They stood in martial array as ordered, and the king Sugriva thus instructed them all. I exhort and commission you to do Sri Rama's work. Therefore, O monkey host, go forth in every direction and institute a search of Janaka's daughter. By you should all return in course of a month. My brethren, he who returns beyond these limits without any news shall meet his death at my hands. On hearing his command, the monkeys proceeded at once in various directions. Sugriva then called Anagda, Nala, and Hanuman. Listen, O Nila, Anagda, Hanuman, and Jambavan, you are all the result of mind and voice. Proceed, all of you, gallant warriors, together to the south and inquire of everyone you meet the whereabouts of Sita. Devise a meaning through mind, speech, and action to trace Sita and thereby accomplish the objects of Sri Ramachandra. One should wait upon the sun turning one's back towards the same, while fire should be waited upon turning one's breast towards it, but a master must be served with one's whole being, without resorting to any wiles. Similarly, one should strive for the world by discarding the unrealities of the world. In the way all one's woes, incidents to birth and death are eradicated. The consummations of human birth lies in worshipping Sri Rama in a disinterested spirit. He is really a man of flair, and he alone is highly blessed, who is enamored of Sri Rama's feet, a man of flair. Taking leave of Sugriva and bowing their heads at his feet, they joyously set out and their thoughts fixed on the Lord of Raghus. The last to make obeisance was Hanuman, the son of the wind god. The Lord knew that his work was going to be accomplished by him and therefore called him near. He stroked his head with his lotus hand and, recognizing him to be his devotee, gave him the ring of his finger. Comfort Sita in various ways and returned quickly after telling her of my might and the agony of my heart due to separations from her. Hanuman felt he had repaid the reward of his birth and departed with the image of all merciful enrichment in the heart. Although the Lord knew everything, the protector of the gods respected the recognized principles of statecraft. All the monkeys set forth, ransacking woods, streets, lakes, hills, and ravines with their mind wholly devoted to Sri Rama's business and shaking off all attachments to their body. If at any place they came across some demon, they would take his life by a single slap. They looked into every recess of forest and hill, and if they met any hermit, they would all surround him. Presently, they felt much oppressed with thirst, but water could be found nowhere, and they also lost their way in the dense forest. Hanuman thought to be himself that without water to drink, all would die. Climbing a hilltop, he looked all around and, noticing a cavity in the ground, saw a strange phenomenon there. Chakravas, herons, and swans hovered at its mouth, and a number of other birds were making their way into it. Coming down the hill, Hanuman took them all and showed them the cavern. They placed Hanuman at their head and entered the cave without further loss of time. Going further, they saw a lovely garden and a lake with many full-blown lotuses. There should be a beautiful temple close by, where sat a woman who was Ashtani incarnate. From a distance, all bowed their head to her and, in response to her inquiry, told her all about themselves. She then said, "Go and drink water and partake of beautiful and luscious fruits of various kinds." They bathed and took some delicious fruits, and all came once more to her. She related to them her own story from the beginning to the end and added, "I will now go and see the Lord of Raghus. Close your eyes and you will find yourself outside the cavern. You shall find Sita. You need not be feel remorse. The champions closed their eyes, and looking again, they found themselves standing on the seashore. She, on her part, went to the Lord of Raghus and, drawing near to him, bowed their head at his lotus feet. She made supplications in diverse ways, and the Lord granted to her unceasing devotion. Bowing to the Lord's command, she felt for the forest of Badrinath, cherishing in her heart Sri Rama's feet that are adorned by the unborn Brahma as well as Lord Sankara. On this side, the monkeys thought to themselves, their time limit was expired, yet nothing has been done. Sitting together, they all said to one another, without obtaining any news, what shall we gain by returning to Kishkinda either? Said Ananda with eyes full of tears. It is death for us both ways. Here we have failed to get tidings of Sita, and if we go home, King Sugriva will behead us. He would have finished me immediately my father was killed, had not Sri Rama protecting me. Hence I owe no gratitude to him. Again and again Agantha told them all, our death has arrived. There is no doubt about it. When the monkey chiefs heard Ananda's words, they could make no answer, and tears rolled from their eyes. For a moment they remained plunged in sorrow, but at last they spoke as follows. We are not going to return without obtaining Sita's news, O Sagriya's prince. So, saying, all the monkeys went to the seashore, and spreading kusha grass there squatted on it. Seeing Ananda's distress, Jambavan gave a high interstitute discourse. Imagine not Rama to be mortal, dear child, know him to be same as the Brahma, without attributes, invisible and unborn. We his servants are all the highly blessed in that we are ever devoted to the same Brahma endowed with a qualified form. Of his own free from the Lord descends on earth for the sake of gods, earth's cows, and the Brahmas, spawning all the varieties of final beatitude. The worshippers of his qualified form remain with him ever on earth. Thus they discouraged and among themselves in many ways. Sampati heard them from his cave in the mountain. When he came out of it and saw a host of monkeys, he said to himself, God has provided me with a feast. I will endure them all today. I have been starving for many days past and have never found a full meal. Today God has supplied me with the abundant food of all time. The monkeys trembled with fear to hear the vulture's words. Our doom is now sealed, we are sure, they said to themselves. All the monkeys rose when they saw the vulture, while Jamban felt much perplexed at heart. Ananta reflected with himself and said, there is no one so blessed as Jatayu, who laid down his life in the service of Sri Rama and ascended the whole abode of Sri Hari, supremely lucky as he was. When the bird heard these words, which stirred in him a mixed feeling of joy and grief, he drove near to the monkeys, who felt alarmed by his presence. Assuring them to safety, he went and inquired them about his younger brother, and the monkeys told him the whole story. When Sampath heard of his brother's obsequies, he glorified the Lord of Raghus in many ways. Take me to the seashore, so that I may make an offering of water with sesame seeds. I can help you only verbally, by following which you will be succeed in recovering her whom you seek. Having performed the after-death ceremonies in respect of the departed brother Jatayu on the seashore, Sampati narrated his own story. Listen, O monkey chiefs. In the prime of your youth, we two brothers soared in the heavens and approached to the orb of the sun. Jatayu could not bear the heat of the sun and came back. But I, in my pride, advanced nearer the sun. My wings were sourced and incoordinate heat and I fell to the ground with a fearful scream. A sage, Chandrama by name, was moved with compassion when he saw me. He taught me spiritual wisdoms in many ways and rid me of identification with the body. In the Treta age, the Supreme Spirit will take the form of a human being, and the demon king, Ravana, will carry off his spouse. The Lord will send out spies to search her, and you will be absolved all the sins by meeting them. Your wings will sprout again. Worry not any longer on that account. You will have to do only this much: show where Sita may be them. The sage's predictions has come true today. Therefore, follow my instructions and set about the summit of Tirkuta hills stands the city of Lanka. The Ravana, who is fearless by nature, lives there. There in the Ashoka garden is Lord Sita, who sits there plugged in grief even now. I see her through you. You cannot, for the range of a vulture's sight is unlimited. I have grown old now, or else I would have rendered some help to you. He who can cross over the ocean having a width of 800 miles and is a repository of intelligence will be able to do Sri Rama's business. Look at me and take courage in your heart. See how rejuvenated I feel in body by Sri Rama's grace. Even sinners who invoke Sri Rama's name are able to cross the vast and boundless oceans of modern existence. You, therefore, who are his spies, should never lose nerve but be up and doing the image of Sri Rama enshrined in your heart. So saying, O Garuda, the vulture departed, leaving them much amazed at heart. Now each one of the monkeys talked of his own strengths, but doubted his ability to leap across. Said Jambavan, I am now too old and not a particle of my former strength is left in my body. When Sri Rama, the slayer of the demon Khara, assumed the form of Trivikama, I was young and possessed great strength. In his efforts to make Bali captive, the Lord grew to an incredible size, yet in less than an hour. I devotedly circumambulated him as many of 7 times. Said Aganta, I will leap across, but I have some deficiency in my heart about my getting back. Jamban, however, interposed, even though you are competent in every way, how can we send you, the leader of us all? The king of bears then turned down towards Hanuman. Listen, O mighty Hanuman, how is it that you are keeping mourn? A son of the wind god, you are as strong as your father and a storehouse of intelligence, discretions, and spiritual wisdom. What undertaking in the world is too difficult for you to accomplish, dear child? It is for the service of Sri Rama that you have come down upon earth. The moment Hanuman heard these words, he grew to the size of a mountain with a body shining of gold and full of splendor, as though he was another king of mountains. Roaring again and again like a lion, he said, I can easily spring across the salt ocean and killing Ravana with all his army, can uproot the Trikuta hill and bring it here. But I ask you, Jamban, kindly tender me suitable advice. All that you have to do, my son, is to go and see Sita and come back with her tidings. Then the lotus-eyed Sri Rama will recover her by the strength of his arm, taking with him a host of monkeys for mere sport. Taking with him an army of monkeys, Sri Rama will exterminate the demons and bring back Sita, and the gods as well as Narada and other sages will utter his praises. That Scanity, the 3 spears. A man who hears singing, repeats or studies them will attain to the supreme state, and Tulasidasa, who is devoted like a bee to the lotus feet of Sri Rama, ever sings them. Sri Rama, the slayer of the demon Trishi, Trishira will grant all the desires of those men and women who listen to Sri Rama's praises. The remedy for the disease of transmigrations. Listen to the praises of Sri Rama, who possesses a form dark, all the blue lotus, who by his elegance extinguishes millions of cupids, and whose name is a veritable flower for birds in the shape of sins. The next kandam is Sri Ramacharitra. I adore the Lord of the universe, bearing the name of Rama, the chief of Raghu's line and the crest jewel of kings, the mine of compassion, the dispeller of all sins, appearing in human form. Though his Maya, the greatness of all lords, noble through Vedanta, constantly worshipped by Brahma, Sambhu, and the Sesa, the bestower of supreme peace in the form of final balance, placed eternal beyond the ordinary means of cognition, sinless and all pervading. You are the spirit of indwelling the hearts of all. Grant me intense devotions to your feet, O crest jewel of Raghus, and free my mind from faults like conceptionals, etc. I bow to you, the son of the wind god, the beloved devotee of Sri Rama, the chief of the monkeys, the repository of all virtues, the foremost among the wise, a fire to consume the forest of the demon's race, possessing a body shining as a mountain of gold and a home of immeasurable strength. Hanuman was much delighted at heart to hear the heartening speech of Jambavan. He said, suffering hardships and living on bulbs, roots and fruits, wait for me, brethren, till I am returned after seeing Sita. I am sure our object will be accomplished, as I feel very cheerful. So saying, after bowing his head to them, all he set out full of joy with the image of Sri Rama enshrined in his heart. There was a beautiful hill on the sea coast. He lightly sprang on its top, and evoking the hero of Raghu's line again and again, the son of the wind god took a leap with all his might. The hill on which Hanuman planted his foot while leaping sank down immediately into the nethermost region. Hanuman sped forth in the same way, and as the Faliti shaft of Sri Rama, knowing him to be Sri Rama's emissary, the deity presiding over the ocean, spoke to the Mount Mainaka, relieving him of his fatigue. O Mainaka! Hanuman simply touched the mountain with his hand and then made obeisance to it, saying, there can be no rest for me till I have accomplished Sri Rama's work. Jai Sri Ram, Jai Hanuman.